Good afternoon. And today I'm going to be talking about big data and smart business, which for me, believe it or not, is a business that can make smart decisions and can make good decisions with data. Now, I'm sure as you've been going through roughly 6 hours of presentations and lots of use cases, you've heard quite a lot of great ideas on how you can make decisions based on data and location intelligence. But let's see if I can give you some more ideas with my presentation. Right. First of all, a question for the people here. Has anyone seen this movie? Raise your hand. Yes? Well, not a lot of people, but the good news is I'm not gonna give you a spoiler and tell you how it ends, because probably you know that there was a referendum in the UK a few years ago, and the people voting to leave the EU won, right? So you know that, so you can still watch the movie. It's a great movie. But the movie, I think, is telling you an interesting story. It's actually showing how, by using data in a slightly controversial way, you can actually win a referendum. And how can you do that? Well, you can basically use profiling data. You can use data about people, identify the people you want to communicate to, and tell them what you want them to hear. And based on that, they can change, they can make up their mind, and they can decide what to vote or not. So it's a debatable way of using data, but it did work. Right, other question. Does anyone know this painting? I hope so. I mean, come on. Really, you don't? All right. This is the Spring from Botticelli, an Italian painter. And do you know where this painting is? Well, if you don't know the painting, probably you don't even know where it is. So it's actually in Italy. It's in a museum called Uffizi in Florence. Now, this gives you the idea of beauty, peace, harmony. Unfortunately, in Italy, there's not always this peace, harmony, particularly when it's about queuing to get into a place. There's a lot of chaos, people coming and going from different directions, and we have to learn a lot from the Brits. But what they did in Italy was a university, L'Aquila, in the south of Italy, started to collect a lot of data about people moving into the museum. Where they go, how long they stay in a room to see a painting, and also kind of joining the data with external events, like if there's a strike outside, if there's bad weather. Because believe it or not, when there's bad weather outside, people will actually spend more time in the museum. And using this data and starting to basically predict what the traffic was going to be into the museum, they started to sell tickets based on specific times to regulate almost in real time the access to the museum. And the consequence was that they managed to reduce significantly the amount of time people were queuing to enter into the museum, which turns into, well, tourists being happier and spending more time also outside when they leave the museum, doing some shopping, for example. And that made an immediate impact on the city. Now, another interesting example is the World Bank. So what they've been doing is studying flooding and earthquakes to try and understand how to limit the impact of flooding in certain cities. How did they do that? They basically used drones to take satellite views of specific cities that they knew they were vulnerable to earthquakes or flooding. And what they did was start studying the images that they were getting to understand which were the buildings that were actually more in danger of being blown away by an earthquake or whatever sort of weather phenomenon. And then they started to use that data to make their investments on building better houses for these people in a much more intelligent way. And that is already reducing the impact of this sort of phenomenon. Now, it's interesting to see these cases because, again, you can see clearly that there is the possibility to change the way you do business in a way, and change completely the model. Now, in Vodafone, a couple of years ago, we launched an initiative which is called the Vodafone Observatory of Enterprises. And basically, this is like a study that we run every year in Spain to try and measure the state of digitalization in Spain. How much businesses of all sizes, small, medium, big, are investing in digital transformation, in technology, in big data to change their business model. Now, if you basically start looking at the study, what is really interesting is there's a big difference between large businesses and small businesses in terms of investments they make on big data. So what you can see is basically the large businesses, the line at the bottom, roughly half of them invest quite a lot in data. But as you move towards the small and medium enterprises, and for the people who are not from Spain, this is like 80–90% of the economy in Spain. There's much less investments. Why is that? Well, basically because there's three barriers that are preventing all these companies to invest. The first one is they don't really understand the value. I mean, if you work on data, whether you're actually selling data to customers or you're actually using the data internally for your company, what you know is the most difficult thing to do is convince people that data will actually deliver some incremental value to your business. Most of the people don't really understand it. They say, well, if I still follow my instinct, I'm sure, I can make exactly the same decision, right? I'm sure you've heard that kind of answer many times. Second barrier, cost. Now, although the cost has been decreasing a lot, the technology, the storage, the computing power that we have to process large amounts of data, there's still some kind of perception that the cost is still high. So you don't really understand the value. You see the cost as being too high. Well, the result is you don't invest. However, and then I'm moving on to the third reason. I believe the real reason behind this is because there's not a lot of knowledge about these sort of things in most of the companies. And why is that? Because there's not many competent people in the market. The ones that are available are very expensive. So most of these companies don't really know much about this. And the consequence is when they see it, they don't understand it, and they make the wrong conclusions. Now, in Vodafone, I think we're very lucky. We're lucky because we work in a business that is extremely rich of data. You know, we have data and we collect data constantly. You know, think about the smartphone that you have in your hands, right? So this smartphone is connected to a network. So if you're a Vodafone customer, it's connected to our network. If you're roaming, it's connected probably to our network. And basically, you're constantly sending information through our network, whether that is you know, simply your location, so we know where you are, because in case we need to pass a call onto your phone, we need to know where you are, because the network has to route the call to the right place. But not only that, because then, you know, your Instagram is constantly updating to try and sort of download news. So you're constantly connecting to us, right? But this is not the only thing that we have, because clearly for our customers, we know who they are. So we have the profile. And, you know, typically, if they have a contractual relationship with us, you know, this is certified. So we know exactly who they are. We know the location. Now, what is the location? The location is, for us, where the mobile phone sleeps or where the mobile phone works. Why? Because, I mean, how much time do you spend away from your mobile phone during a day? But not a lot, unfortunately. So we know we can infer where you live simply by using this information. We don't need you to give us your address. And then we know how you're using our products. You know, what sort of products you use. We also sell television, so we know what programs you're watching, for example. We know what sort of internet websites you browse, for example. The data that we use is anonymized, aggregated, and in many cases, we also extrapolate that data to get to the total population and basically avoid being able to identify an individual with his profile. But for statistical purposes, obviously, you know, you can use it. Now, you know, and then the other question is, yes, but how about Google and Facebook? You know, they have data too, and you know, they're probably better because nobody really cares about giving their consent, their permission to use their data to Google and Facebook, and that is true. However, there's some differences, I think. So the quality of our data tend to be better for a number of reasons. You know, we get all the traffic. We don't only get part of the traffic that our users generate. And there's a lot of, you know, granularity and because we see all the websites. We don't only see Facebook, right? Now, on the other end, we see, as I said, our customers, which, you know, roughly 30%. Unfortunately, being Google and Facebook being giants, incumbents, possibly in a sort of monopoly, they see 90% of the people. So in that respect, they definitely have more. But as I said, what we tend to do to compensate is extrapolating the data. And then, you know, back to what I was telling you at the beginning, I think Google and Facebook infer a lot of information based on what you watch, what you post on Facebook, or what sort of places you visit. We infer less because we know who the person is and we know what they do, right? So all of this to say, well, you know, we have a lot of data, you know, there's a lot of possibilities to make good decisions and so what. Well, what we decided to do, you know, considering, you know, all this information that we had and considering the fact that we have also a lot of knowledge about using this data to, for our business, we decided to make it available to our customers. And we did that with the help of CARTO. You know, we created Vodafone Analytics, and you know, when we launched the solution in a press conference, for some reason, you know, a journalist decided to call it the Spotify of big data. Now, I'm not really sure why, but you know, I like the name; it's cool. So, you know, we invented the Spotify of big data. And we focused the solution on specific use cases because, as I said, what we wanted to do was to make sure we were adding value to the business of our customers. And we wanted to do it in a very simple, effective way. So what we wanted to do is give them a solution that is easy to use. You don't need to be a super expert to use it. You can be a marketing person, you know, and try and understand how to change your strategy or make better decisions. And basically that's it. You know, you pay a subscription and you use it. Now, we know that the world is not made only of marketing people, so you also have a lot of geeks. You have a lot of big data experts. So you can also personalize that, or you can start playing with the data, bearing in mind that we do not sell raw data, because that's exactly what we want to avoid. What we want to do is add value and provide our knowledge in processing the data and the power of the CARTO solution to make better decisions. Now, I'm going to be talking about specific cases which I think are interesting to show, and it kind of gives you a bit of an idea. Mobile World Congress, the biggest fair in the world for telecommunications. Loads of people go there every year. It's in Barcelona. So this year, we wanted to show how Vodafone Analytics can be helpful to provide insights on a specific event. So what we started to do was to see, first of all, how many people are in Barcelona during the period of the event. And what's the difference compared to last year or, you know, the week before. So here, for example, you know, we saw roughly 150,000 people more for the event. So we start thinking, well, maybe that depends on the event. And then we say, okay, but now let's compare. So let's say we compare a week without the event and a week with the event. And what we see in the morning and in the afternoon. And basically, you start seeing which are the areas in Barcelona where there's an increase in the number of people. So as you can expect, well, obviously, the Fair of Barcelona, the place where they do the event, that's where you would have an increase, which is roughly here. And but also in the city center, you know, the Ramblas area or Plaza de España. So these are the places where you see a big concentration of people, right? So that's another interesting information. But then we start saying, okay, but how does this change the profiles of the people visiting Barcelona? So the age profile, for example, or, you know, does it change the number of women and men? You know, I would imagine that certain events that attract more men than women and vice versa. So in this case, it's neutral, pretty much. And then, also we started to look at nationalities and start checking, the people visiting the Mobile World Congress, where are they coming from? Most of them, or the biggest increase was people from the US, from the UK as well. Here, for example, the thing that for us was a bit surprising is we didn't see a lot of people from China. But we know that there are lots of people from China. So here, perhaps the conclusion is they were using a local mobile phone instead of using their mobile phone, maybe because they don't want to be controlled, but I don't know. And so that's an interesting application, right? Now, another one is something that we did last year in November for the MTV Awards. So last year, the European MTV Awards were in Bilbao, in the north of Spain, and we decided to sponsor the event. But we didn't want to simply, show our brand because, that's easy to do. But honestly, I don't think it adds a lot of value. What we wanted to do is be the technology partner. And so what we did was we worked with CARTO to show our capabilities. So we started to think, what can we do for the event? How can we help the people attending, and how can we help the people organizing to understand a bit more? So here, for example, what you can see is, obviously, we started to track how people were moving in the city, where they were going, what sort of events, they were attending, what concerts. We started to measure the number of people, going into the stadium. This is the Bilbao Stadium where there was a concert from the band Muse. But not only that, I mean, you've seen, for example, in the video, we installed some sensors. The sensors that were also tracking people within the stadium. But not only that, we also put sensors in some specific areas in Bilbao, but also, for example, in the rubbish container. And why did we do that? Because what we wanted to try and do is, if I can predict where people are moving, where they're going, I can basically send people to empty the containers before they get too full, and all of a sudden, the situation is unmanageable because I'm providing a bad service to my customers. So I think this is another good example of how these sort of things can help. And then, I mean, this morning, I believe my friends from JLL, Jones Lang LaSalle, came here to present, so you probably know what they're doing. For me, the interesting thing is to understand how they're changing their business model with data. Well, the best thing we can do is actually hear directly from them how they're doing it. The video is in Spanish, subtitled, so apologize for that.
En cuanto a soluciones de Big Data, en el mercado podemos encontrar bastantes, pero aplicadas directamente a real estate prácticamente no hay nada desarrollado. O sea, nosotros llevamos una ventaja competitiva considerable porque llevamos años agregando, entendiendo y generando modelos que nos permiten precisamente entender el mercado inmobiliario de una manera nunca vista. En colaboración con el departamento de retail de JLL hemos desarrollado bastantes trabajos, ya que entender la segmentación de los clientes a nivel de calle es un valor diferencial para los clientes potenciales.
Con los datos de Vodafone Analytics podemos saber una serie de dimensiones que hasta ahora desconocíamos, como ejemplo, qué tipo de gente se mueve en los grupos, qué tipo de género, hombres, mujeres, rangos de edad. incluso capacidad económica de compra, dónde viven, dónde desarrollan su labor profesional, dónde desarrollan su ocio.
Los datos de Vodafone Analytics nos da algo que no nos está dando ninguna fuente ahora mismo en el mercado, y es que nos está presentando cómo los usuarios se mueven en el espacio físico. Estamos hablando de cómo se mueven en los edificios, en las calles, pero también nos da una componente digital. La potencia visual y espacial que tienen los datos de Vodafone son espectaculares y nos permiten construir soluciones en las que somos capaces de mostrarles de una manera muy visual cómo hemos llegado paso a paso a las conclusiones que les ofrecemos, sin tener que desplazarnos a los espacios en los que estamos trabajando. Esta solución de Big Data es tan potente porque realmente hemos trabajado codo con los equipos de Big Data de Vodafone. El trato ha sido espectacular.
Si echamos la vista atrás en JLL, la verdad es que este camino no lo hubiéramos podido recorrer sin la ayuda y la colaboración de un partner digital como Vodafone.
The future is exciting, or el futuro es apasionante, you know, the way we say it in Spanish. And why? Because this is the start for me. So what we're doing now is thinking about how to take this forward. What more can we do? Predictive models. So, you know, for me, what we should do is try and use this data to start predicting future behavior. So, you know, if you have these many people today and you're selling this, you know, when the people in the future will be this, you know, how much are you going to be selling to kind of be able to make plans and make decisions? You know, as I said, start bringing the world of IoT, Internet of Things, and the world of data and analytics together to be able to change, for example, the way people move within a city or the services that we provide people in a city. So think about you know, being able to predict where I'm going to have more car parking spaces in a city depending on how people are moving, and in real time being able to tell people, no, don't go this way because you're not going to be able to park, go that way. And finally, 5G. So this is the 5th generation of mobile telephony. We are launching in Spain this very soon. And you know, the power of this is that it will give us the ability to have better data because the level of precision will be much more than what we can have today. It will go possibly very close to GPS precision. And that will be fantastic because we will be able to have almost the perfect location of most of our customers and enrich our ability to make better decisions even more. And that's all I wanted to tell you. So thank you very much for your attention.